Time to get back to work on Operation Cheap Jeep. Today I want to build a bumper for the rear, so the first step is to remove this. If you'll remember in the front bumper video I ripped off the rear bumper, but the bolts are still in there. They're rusty and crusty, so I'm going to hit it with some lubricant. Hopefully we can break those free. So Jeep apparently did not want you to remove the factory rear bumper mount thingy. And if you look under the bottom, this has to be the stupidest design ever. There's studs in here. So there's a stud and a nut on the bottom. And then if you look up here, there's the top of the stud and a nut on the top. So even if you get the nut off the bottom, you still can't get this out because they're so crusty and rusted up in there that it's just impossible. So now I'm in a pickle of how to get these things out. It's tempting to just torch them out with a torch or a plasma cutter, but you gotta remember we're sitting here like just several inches away from the gas tank full of gas right here. So I think I'll try to beat them up with a hammer and see if I can then pull this out. Of course, it's not supposed to go up through there because there's a little washer welded onto there. So if I do beat them up through, it's going to make a larger hole and a mess. I think I need to cut them off at the bottom first and then beat them through. Otherwise they're too long and they hit the top before I can pull this out. Now that we got rid of that, let's see if we can get rid of some more stuff. I don't see any reason for this huge chunk of metal right here. Now I don't want to get up into the quarter panel up here, but I can cut a good 3 or 4 inches off of this. No big deal. Eventually I'll move this exhaust tip up or gut it all together. It's sticking down way too low down here, but I'll get the bumper on first and see where we're at after that. Well, there's the start of a cheap bumper right there. That's 1/4 inch, 2x6. Let's see if we can make it work. Alright guys, I feel like I need to say this. I'm about to use a plasma torch. Now, I know this is the cheap Jeep project. Technically, you could do it with a cutoff wheel, but I'm trying to save some time. So the hardest part of making a bumper is trying to figure out how to fit it onto the unibody. So I got to thinking about this, and then it hit me. What if we just take this, we turn it upside down, and shove it in there? You thinking what I'm thinking? Well, it took a little bit of trimming, but I was able to make both sides fit. The other side I had to trim out a little more because of the gas filler lines come right through the frame. But now they both sit in there like that. I think what I'll do next is cut right along here off the edge so that I'll be able to weld at least two sides of that and make it a little stronger. So check this out. You can't make this up. I just cut this off of here, and I ended up with this piece. And then I had this piece sitting right next to it, and I realized this is pretty much the exact same thing. I could use these pieces that I cut off of the bumper for the braces instead of this, and it'll be stronger because it has two sides instead of just one angle. All I need to do though is cut the holes, which is kind of a good thing because these holes don't line up anyway, so I'd have to kind of oval them out to make them work. So if I do my own out of this piece, I'll be able to make the holes exact. I got my holes drilled. Now the problem is, once you slide that into place, you won't be able to put a nut on the back side, let alone hold it. So you'll need to capture your nuts. And to do that, I'm going to put a bolt through, put the nut in, and then weld it in place. Now before I do anything else, I want to put this in and actually tighten it down, all the way down, because it's going to move a little bit. And I want to do that before I weld it in place. That way it doesn't move afterwards. I'm using some really big washers on the bottom. I actually had to use 2 washers to get it big enough to go through the hole. But another thing you could do is make a piece of steel with the holes in the right places to put on the bottom, kind of sandwich the frame in between. That'd probably be a better option. Now if we want to get really fancy, since we've already cut the ends off of this, let's see if we can take this part off and we'll put it in our new bumper. That way we can tow something if we have to. For that I'm going to use a plasma gouger. So instead of cutting the metal, this tip scoops out the metal almost like a spoon. I've never tried it before. It's got a bigger hole. You can kind of see the difference there. You're looking at these holes. This is the cutting one, and this is the gouging one. That's really cool. So that's pretty awesome. It is like having a spoon and just scooping out the metal. More like a Jedi lightsaber though. Whatever you point it at, whatever that lightsaber hits, it just kind of scoops the metal out of there. Great for getting out old welds, or let's say you need to take something apart but you don't want to cut it up. You can just kind of scoop out the weld with this thing. So it took me a while, but I finally got that sucker out of there and cleaned up. Now let's work on cleaning up this mess, and then we'll put it in the bumper. Ta-da! Well, there's your problem. So I've got some of this tube left over. I'm thinking I'll take that and fill that gap there. So let's measure. Alright, so having it flat like that is not really working for me. What I think I'll do is bring this out at an angle so that it lines up more with the tail lights and kind of blends in better. Kind of looks weird down here. I think if I were to do it again, I would bring the whole bumper out this way about 2 inches. That'd give me a lot more room to play with. But it's the cheap Jeep, so let's just do it to it. So now I need to cover up this mess right here. So I cut a piece of cardboard and I'm going to stick it up there and draw me some lines. I think it'll look good to kind of go like this, over, up, something like that. Alright, I cut it out of cardboard. I'll put it back up here, check it again. Looks pretty good, other than I made it a little short, so I need to extend it out about 1 inch. But otherwise, I'm going to cut it out in steel. Behold. So I think what I'll do is I'll hold this up here, tack it on the back, and then I'll kind of fit a piece right here. I'm going to cap it off. I'll probably leave the bottom just like that. It's 1/4 inch. What I like to do is figure out how to mount it kind of right here on this thing, whatever that is. I'll have to figure that out. But I think it'll be easier to tack it up first rather than trying to go up and down with it. Yay, more cardboard. So this is going to be the piece that goes right there and caps everything off. It doesn't need to be real strong, so I'll probably make this out of 1/8 inch instead of 1/4. I checked the other side too. They're both exactly the same. These things look exactly like guns. Pew pew pew, pew pew, pew pew. Alright, I cut these out a 1/2 inch. On these you want to get them as close to the supports on the rear as possible so that when you're yanking off of these that it doesn't just fold the bumper. So I also cut a hole in the front and cut a hole in the back. That way I can weld it to the front and the back. Look at that. I don't even understand what's holding it there. It's not touching the jack stands, yet it won't go in. It's just kind of free floating there by itself. Scratched up the... I should have got some help with this. Ta-da! There it is, guys, the cheap $100 rear ZJ Cheap Jeep bumper. Now that was a major pain in the butt trying to get it on there because my clearances, my tolerances were too tight when I welded it up, everything shifted just a little bit and it was really hard to push it back in there. So this thing, I guarantee you, will never come off unless you tie it to a tree and drive off. Now I say it's a cheap bumper, but really I only have probably $100, give or take, of materials in it. But I did count the time because I know you guys will be asking how much time did it take. And it took me 14 hours total to build this. Now that was including designing it, building it, welding it, but also videoing, because I have to do the video. So that adds a little extra time. And also cleaning up the shop, like sweeping and stuff like that. You have to do that on occasion. So the next question you may have is, will I build you one? Sorry guys, that is not my business model. So let's say it took me, let's say I could even get it down to 10 hours to build one of these. If you charged a normal shop rate, which is like 80 bucks an hour, let's see, do the math, that's $800 in labor, plus the materials is $100. So really, that's why I think bumpers are so expensive. Not just that, but let's see, that's 900 bucks. To ship something this big would probably be a freight charge of around $250. So really, it's not that cheap after all if somebody were to buy it. Now, you build it on your own, yeah, because you're taking up all the labor cost. I really wish I could make and sell stuff like this, but it's just not my business model. I don't have the shop for that or the shipping stuff and all that it takes. Let's say I did start selling them and I got an order of 10. At 10 hours, that would take me almost a month to build these, and then you guys wouldn't get to see any videos. But I really do hope this video teaches you instead. That's my business model, to teach you guys how to do it on your own, and I hope I did that in this video to show you that something like this is achievable. It just takes time. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure first that you're subscribed to the channel. If you are subscribed already, check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/BleepinJeep. There we have special perks, and you can help support the channel, which is the main thing. Like I said, we're doing this for you guys to try to teach you how to do stuff. By supporting us through Patreon, we can do more of it. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.